Hi, I'm Moose, and in case the title and thumbnail didn't make it clear, this video will contain heavy spoilers for Solo: A Star Wars Story. Consider yourself warned, because today we're talking about the shocking reappearance of, did I mention spoilers, Darth Maul. Well, it's not shocking for everyone. If you're a fan of the comics, Clone Wars, and Rebels, it should come as no surprise that this split-in-half Sith Lord is alive and well. But if you haven't been keeping up on the new canon, you might have left the theater a little confused. Well, fear not, my young apprentice, because we've got the answer to what could be the most important question of our times. How is Darth Maul still alive? Not only that, but how did a solemn Blood Knight end up in charge of sleazy criminals? It's a sordid tale of siblings, sabers, and Sith, and it all starts on the planet Dathomir. Dathomir was home to the Night Sisters, a coven of witches who tapped into the dark side to aid in their infernal magic. The eventual leader of the Night Sisters was Talzin, mother of Maul and his brothers Ferrell and Savage Opress. Beyond having a knack for badass names, Talzin was also an extremely powerful sorceress, which soon caught the attention of Sheev Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious, aka You're My Future Emperor. He taught her all about the dark side. She taught him about Dethromi magic. It was like a cool little networking meeting with a mutual exchange of ideas and information.
Well, let me finish, Dimitri. Let me finish, Dimitri. Why do you think I'm calling you? Just to say hello? Of course I like to speak to you. Of course I like to say hello.
Sidious even promised to make Talzin his new apprentice. Then he was like, psych, I'm stealing your baby boy instead.
Yoink! Yoink!
Sidious subjected Maul to brutal training and instilled in him a burning hatred for all things Jedi. Maul scored the first notch in his lightsaber by killing a Padawan named Eldra Kaitis, but that still wasn't enough to satiate his bloodlust. Luckily, his master was about to unleash his plan to seize control of the galaxy, but even though hundreds of Jedi would perish in the Purge, only one more would taste Maul's plasma blade before his untimely death. Despite Jake Lloyd's awe-inspiring acting, the real star of The Phantom Menace was only on screen for 12 minutes, and he spoke just 31 words.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
Darth Maul's master orders him to hunt down Princess Amidala and her Jedi escorts, and he almost nabs them on Tatooine. Maul follows them to Naboo, kicks Obi-Wan's ass, and kills Qui-Gon Jinn so hard his Force ghost was too shook to show up in the movies. He shows up in the cartoons, I know, but you know who doesn't? It's Liam Neeson. Obi-Wan rallies, recalls his lightsaber, and slices the Sith in two. Both halves plummet down the shaft below, and that's the last we'd see of Maul for 10 years, until his unlikely resurrection. After Episode 1, Star Wars fans were still thirsty for more Maul. It seemed like a waste to kill such a cool character after so little screen time. I mean, imagine if people actually cared about Snoke. There used to be a ton of expanded universe stories that brought him back as a clone, a hologram, and a cyborg that actually gets killed by Uncle Owen. But those are all long-lost legends now. So how'd he come back to life in the new canon? Maul's hatred and rage kept him alive long enough to snag an air vent during his descent and drag his ticked-off torso into a space dumpster. He survives the trip to the landfill planet of Lotho Minor and snags a new set of cybernetic legs made out of garbage and held together by spit, chewing gum, and the power of the Force. Being bisected took a toll on the suffering Sith, though. His mind was shattered, and the only thing he could remember from his old life was a fiery hatred for one man, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Speaking of his old life, we've got to take a quick detour back to Dathomir. That's where Talzin, you remember, Maul's mama, she knows her baby boy is still alive. Because mothers always know. Your mother knows what you did. Don't try to hide it. They always know. But she doesn't know where he is, so she tasks her surviving son, Savage, with finding his brother. Savage had become a badass in his own right, first as a mind-controlled monster under the Night Sister Asajj Ventress, then as Count Dooku's Sith apprentice. He finds his brother and returns the prodigal son to Dathomir, where Mama whips up a new set of bipedal legs for him. And sacrifices her own power and life energy to restore his body and mind. Back at 100%, Maul takes Savage as his own apprentice and plots his revenge against the Jedi who killed him and the Sith who abandoned him.
I was apprenticed to the most powerful being in the galaxy once. I was destined to become so much more.
Then you must have your revenge, my brother.
Yes, we shall start with revenge.
But to do that, first, he'd have to become a crime lord. So, you and your brother want to get Obi-Wan Kenobi's attention. How do you do that? Easy. Slaughter a bunch of civilians. During their duel, Maul taunts Obi-Wan about his master's murder to goad him into anger, which leads to hate, which leads to suffering, yada yada yada. Obviously, Obi-Wan survives. So the Bash brothers decide to take a different tactic.
You better bet your bottom dollar that these two brothers know how to handle business.
After getting their asses kicked in another encounter, they escape to Mandalore, a peaceful planet that was once home to a fierce warrior culture. They align with Death Watch, a splinter group that wants to make Mandalore great again, but in order to do that, they need an army. Their first stop is the criminal syndicate called Black Sun. The mob bosses aren't initially receptive, but the sole survivor pledges his loyalty after Savage kills everyone else.
It would seem the decision to join us is now yours.
After this display of power, another syndicate called the Pikes eagerly join up, which leaves the Hutts as the only holdouts. Jabba and his crew mocked Maul's offer, but after making the albino Hutt Aruba an offer he couldn't refuse, the rest of the space slugs fell in line. That's 3 of the most powerful mobs in the galaxy now under Maul's control, and he named his new army the Shadow Collective. Despite heavy resistance, Maul seized control of Mandalore, but he struggled to maintain his grip over the planet. Seeing an opportunity, Sidious swooped in to take his old apprentice down a peg. He takes on the two brothers in a no-holds-barred handicap match, which ends with Maul humiliated and Savage murdered. Sheev throws Maul in a space prison called the Spire, but he allows him to escape in order to track down Talzin, who Sidious wants out of the picture before he executes his plan for galactic domination. I'm Darth Sidious. I'm about to take over the entire galaxy, but I got this witch running around on Dathomir who's super powerful, and she really hates me because I kidnapped her son to train him in the dark side of the Force, and then he got sliced in half, driven mad, turned into a cyborg, and drove him to a life of crime. That's why he wanted her out of the picture. In the second most humiliating death in all of Star Wars, Maul has to watch helplessly as his beloved mother is killed by General Grievous. I'd rather get killed by General Mills.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Lord, Savior, and Spirit, save me, take me to the light. Oh my God, I see demons.
He escapes, but Sheev isn't sweating. He's got bigger fish to fry than Maul, and besides, the Shadow Collective is shattered, Mandalore is under Imperial control, and his old apprentice knows exactly who the big dog is. Which more or less brings us to Solo, where Qi'ra, Dryden, and the Crimson Dawn gang are revealed to be working for none other than Darth Maul. Or just Maul. He's not so much a Sith fan anymore. It seems he hasn't lost a step after losing the Shadow Collective, and is perfectly happy working with thieves, pirates, and scumbags in his endless pursuit of revenge. Now, we already know how Maul's story ends, but that supremely satisfying final fight takes place years after Solo, so we'll save Maul's run in Rebels for another video. There's still a few unexplored years in between, with plenty of room for sequels and spin-offs. Not bad for a character who was killed off in his first appearance. In hindsight, it was kind of a waste of potential, and with Solo, moviegoers are finally going to learn what fans of Clone Wars and Rebels have known for years, that the Star Wars galaxy is a much richer place with Maul around. Thanks for watching, everybody. I know I was stunned to see Darth Maul show up in Solo. I could have sworn they'd save him for an Obi-Wan movie or something. But honestly, Maul could probably carry his own spin-off, so I want to know which Star Wars character you think deserves their own movie next. Leave a comment, let me know, and as always, please subscribe to Now This Nerd.